Hi, I'm an Australian living here in Belarus, and today I'm going to compare American women, USA women, and Belarusian women, but I'm going to do it from a statistical perspective. And what I share with you might surprise you. First of all, let's look at BMI, Body Mass Index. Now, of course, there's underweight, skinny, average, overweight, and obese. Now, this measure is far from perfect because it doesn't consider bone density, doesn't consider muscle, blah, blah, blah. But in America and in Belarus, almost 70% of women are either overweight or obese, according to the BMI data. Now, this might really shock you if you've spent time here in Belarus, especially here in Minsk, and you look around, you'll be saying, what are you talking about, you idiot? This is simply not true. Now, there is a little bit of a catch here, is that a heavier proportion, no pun intended, a heavier proportion of American women fall into the obese category rather than the overweight category. Whereas here in Belarus, is more in the overweight category, less in the obese category. And that checks out with what you see. You see some people that are a bit podgy, but no one that's really seriously overweight. Second thing I want to talk about is the birth rate, because the birth rate pretty much tells you everything about the health of a society. If you can't replicate your own people, you're pretty screwed, right? That's pretty obvious. So of course, for a population to replicate itself, every woman needs to have 2 kids, right? One to replace the father, one to replace the mother. That will keep the population flat. Now, of course, we're living longer and longer and longer. So of course, maybe a bit less than 2 is kind of okay. But then again, obviously people die prematurely and so on. So maybe you need a bit more than 2. Let's just say 1.9 or 2 is about how many you need to have. In America and Belarus, they actually have pretty similar birth rates. That's around 1.7 to 1.8. So pretty much every woman's having more or less 2 children. You have the occasional one with 1 child, the occasional woman with no children as well. So you would think that maybe Belarus has a slightly higher birth rate, but it's certainly not the case at all. And of course, this goes back to previous traditions, previous issues with communism, trying to change the culture, and also issues with many of the men being killed in World War II. This changed the dynamics of family and so forth as well. So there's a few reasons why. But interestingly, America and Belarus have a similar birth rate. Now, of course, if you investigate America and you look at individual cities and states as well, you'll find different stories based on where you are. Some will have probably more than 2, some will have maybe as low as 1, depending on the culture in that particular state. Third thing I want to compare is the divorce rate. The divorce rate. And it turns out that the divorce rate is around 50% in both Belarus and the USA. In fact, it's actually a little bit higher in Belarus, which is a bit surprising, probably for most of you. But of course, these things have a complicated history. Again, the communists were very anti-religion, at least at the start. They tried to patch that back together again, but didn't maybe do it as well as they could have. But they were initially very anti-religion, very anti-family, until they worked out that doesn't work, and then they tried to patch it all together, right? But the new contract that they drew up for the genders wasn't very attractive. Especially for women, but kind of for both. So that's kind of failed a little bit. So you do get quite a high divorce rates in these countries such as here, Ukraine and Russia, these 3 countries that are usually thrown in together, these 3 countries that were there right at the start of the Soviet Union, right? They were there when they were going really nuts with all the Soviet policies. And of course here in Belarus as well, you have this added complication of, as I just mentioned, of World War II, where almost every man that was of kind of healthy age, they were killed in war. Like, it was just annihilation of the male population, really. So this does a lot to the dating, marriage situation, right? Women were kind of left on their own, and you had a whole generation of just super mums doing everything. And of course, the daughters learn this, and then they don't know then how to have a husband, they don't know how to act in a marriage, they don't know how to make that kind of work. So you kind of got this inherited individuality, if you will, this inherited broken family structure, which I think contributes a bit to the high divorce rate here as well. Finally, who initiates divorce? This is interesting. So typically what you find is that education is the greatest predictor of women initiating divorce. Yep. So more broadly speaking, in the West, around 2/3 of marriages, or divorces should I say, are instigated by the woman and about 1/3 by the man. Now, if the woman does not have college education, this drops to about 50-50, yep. Whereas here in Belarus, 80% of divorces are instigated by women. Can you imagine such a high number? So that's how it is here. Now, as you can see, at a macro level, things don't look that different between America and Belarus. I've covered 4 things here. I've covered BMI, I've covered birth rate, I've covered divorce rate, and I've covered the percentage of divorces that are initiated by women. So I've covered 4 things here. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. Please tell me below, why do you think these numbers are the same? Tell me something that maybe the statistics kind of miss out on. Tell me something that's kind of nuanced in one of these countries that causes these things to be the same.